In the summer of 2019, I went to see Call Me By Your Name in an open-air cinema. It was a spontaneous visit, so I had not much associated expectations. The setting in Italy did not seem to be far away on that warm evening, and quickly I was drawn into a world full of romance, adolescent awkwardness, music, and ancient statues. To this day, the movie resonates with me, but there's one scene in particular that stood out to me.
My place, most parents would hope the whole thing goes away. Pray their sons land on their feet, but I am not such a parent. We rip out so much of ourselves to be cured of things faster that we go bankrupt by the age of 30 and have less to offer each time we start with someone new. But to make yourself feel nothing so as not to feel anything. What a waste. Right now, there's sorrow, pain. Don't kill it. And with it, the joy you felt.
Still, I can't find the right words to describe what happened to me in these moments. Some resistance broke, and the past flooded back in my awareness. 1 year before, I had met a girl during a trip to Budapest. We spent there 3 days together, after which I had a huge crush on her. But she was from the US, and I lived in Germany. On the day my friend and I had to catch our flight back, I was pretty convinced that I would never see her again. We embraced each other for hours in a small hostel bed, and then I left. At home, it felt like the rough awakening from a beautiful dream. Getting back into my everyday life turned out to be quite difficult, with so many shared, intimate moments still alive in me. Then she did the craziest and most courageous thing. Instead of continuing her travels as planned, she jumped on a bus that would take her through half of Europe to get back to me. For 2 weeks we were together, and when she flew back to the States, we agreed that we would try to make a long-distance relationship work. Over 1 year, we visited each other multiple times, even for extended periods of some months. But after I returned from my longest stay in the US, we both felt that something had changed. There was no option viable for either of us that would change the fact that we were living on 2 different continents. The hours we spoke daily via FaceTime became fewer, and the intimacy that in the beginning even burned through a smartphone screen faded away. Quite uneventful, we both recognized that this was not what we wanted and agreed to end our relationship, affirming that we wanted to stay present in each other's lives, being grateful for the shared time. It was over, and besides some manageable sadness, I sensed nothing. I continued with my life, feeling rather alright, pretty much not thinking about what I just left behind. And then I saw this scene where Elio is comforted by his father. It pulled the ground from under my feet. The walls I had erected, more or less unconsciously, to keep the last year neatly stored in oblivion, became porous. Drop by drop, the past poured in. Her yellow jacket at the bus station, a strand of her black hair in my mouth, Whitney Houston on the Christmas market. What began as a trickle of faded memories turned into everything. I sat in my car, listening to a playlist we created together, and God, did I cry. It was as if I had rediscovered a forgotten continent of my life. So much was streaming through me. Grief and joy, longing and acceptance, gratefulness and despair. The poet and writer Rilke had a line, "Being here is so much." How true, how astounding it was to witness the true extent of my beating heart. The apparent polarity between these different feelings ceased to exist, and rather than cancelling each other out, they were supporting and holding each other. Where before I had only allowed myself to remember the end of our time together, I now rediscovered all the lost pieces I had banished from my consciousness. I still feel truly grateful that everything came back to me in such a way. At the same time, I was quite shocked at how easy it is to close our hearts off and simply forget. Obviously, we cannot always rest in such an awareness and appreciation as the one that came over me that summer evening. Our everyday life has its demands on us, and as I noticed for myself, it doesn't take much to get lost in automatic functioning, where living is pretty comfortable and a certain dullness covers the face of the world. To an extent, this is even okay, but we have to remember that it is essential to step into a fuller conversation with our psyche on a regular basis. At all times, no matter the personal history and the weight of our defense mechanisms, there are those stirrings, those small voices within that invite us to go beyond the confines of the brightly lit places into the twilight of our lives. There, in the hidden corners of our hearts, something new awaits our curious arrival. But we have to be willing to make the journey, and especially in our modern world, where every imaginable distraction is just one swipe away, shallow living is tempting. So what might have the strength to draw us forward, to shake us out of our sleep? I think I know the answer to that. To fully live, embracing and accepting all aspects of what it means to be human, is to accept the rights of grief and sorrow. This is what Elio's father invites.
Right now, there's sorrow, pain. Don't kill it.
To acknowledge and live the pain that is just normal for the loss he just experienced. There's nothing wrong about it. It is a natural response of our organism. But if we should try to fight and deny these parts of ourselves, we lose the greater whole. The psychologist Francis Weller calls grief and sorrow threshold emotions. They have a life of their own, and when they visit us, their untamed embrace tears away all superficiality. All the comfortable masks we normally present to the world are taken from us. We are reduced to our essence, to our beating heart. In his book, A Wild Edge of Sorrow, Francis Weller writes, "Grief offers a wild alchemy that transmutes suffering into fertile ground. We are made real and tangible by the experience of sorrow, as it adds substance and weight to our world. We are stripped of access and revealed as human in our time of grief. Grief ripens us, pulls up from the depths of our soul what is most authentic in our being. It is a broken heart, the part that knows sorrow, that is capable of genuine love." Consider how at odds this perception of emotions like sorrow and grief stands with the way our mainstream culture tends to conceptualize them. We are raised with a strictly two-dimensional model for our inner landscape, labeling one side the positive and the other the negative. The positive emotions obviously being the one we should seek and crave, whereas the negative emotions are pictured as annoying temporary intrusions comparable to catching the flu that must be overcome as quickly as possible so that we can return to normal functioning. It doesn't matter if we shop compulsively, medicate ourselves with numbing substances, spend hours absorbed in the virtual world, or cling to our professional occupation. In the end, all these are just culturally sanctioned attempts to relieve us from having to feel deeply, further feeding the illusion that we can be in control of everything. This is a crucial point why our modern culture is so afraid of emotions like sorrow and grief, because they teach us humility. They are the direct proof of the seasonal cycles within our psyche, periods of growth and abundance, followed by a decline and death, only for something new to be born again. If we fight against these natural rhythms, we are at war with ourselves, with each battle cutting out more. The resulting emptiness in our hearts and the desperate attempts to fill it with material possession or power we see everywhere around us. What I am invoking here is not a remorseful indulgence in the past, but a more accepting relation to our inner world. There is a deep appropriateness which we can access if we stop telling our experience what it should mean and instead bow our heads and listen. Cry, bawl your eyes out if you must, but remember all, the loss and the love. It has made you, shaped you into the being you are now. In this way, it will forever stay with you. Your heart, the beating witness of your courage to allow another to enter the very core of your being and find a home there. In this sense, grief is the honest recognition of how intimately your life is interwoven with others, of how deeply you were touched and held. It is a fearful thing to love what death can touch, to love, to hope, to dream, and oh, to lose. A thing for fools this love, but a holy thing to love what death can touch. For your life has lived in me, your love once lifted me, your words were a gift to me. To remember this brings painful joy. It is a human thing, love, a holy thing, to love what death can touch.